Hello sporting fans, it's time to take you to the world of sport on Breakfast Central. After the international break, we know that the Confederation of African Football will make key decisions. At this time, the opening and closing ceremony dates for the 2023 African Cup of Nations to be hosted by Ivory Coast have been officially confirmed by the Confederation of African Football. The opening match is scheduled to take place on Saturday, January 13, 2024 at the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan. The four-week tournament, pitting Africa's best 24 teams, will officially conclude on February 11, 2024. This will be the 34th edition of the tournament, and it returns to Ivory Coast for the second time, after first being held there in 1984, where Cameroon emerged as winners for the very first time. So it's great to see we'll have the African Cup of Nations sometimes in 2024, and the official date for the opening and closing ceremony has been confirmed. Moving away from that, South African Football Association SAFA President Dr. Danny Jordaan met with Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture of South Africa, Zizi Kodwa, in Pretoria on Thursday, 30 March 2023, to discuss the host of issues, including South Africa's interest to host the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup. South Africa registered its intention to bid for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup and submitted letters of support from the government and the South African Sport Confederation and Olympic Committee a few months ago. Dr. Danny Jordaan said a Thursday's meeting was the first of similar engagements with the minister that will take place in the coming months as South Africa bids to bring the 2027 event to the country in Johannesburg.
Well, the dates are all outlined in the bid document, and we will have a further detailed discussions with the minister. And also in preparation that there is a big workshop for all the bidders during the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, where we'll get the final requirements for bidding nations. But for now, we're just at the point where we must express interest, which we've expressed.
And you did hear from the president of the South African Football Association, Dr. Danny Jordaan. Danny Jordaan making moves, big moves like Morocco, Fauzi Lekja. But let's move away from here. Tell you one man who left his place as the coach of Saudi Arabia team is now the new coach of the French women's national team. The Frenchman, Hervé Renard, resigned from his position as Saudi Arabia men's coach on Tuesday, having overseen the famous winner over Argentina, who eventually won the cup at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Renard replaces Corinne Diacre, who was sacked from her position as head coach earlier in March, one day after she released a statement claiming that there was a violent and dishonest smear campaign against her in the French women's camp. Replacing Diacre, Hervé Renard signed a contract that runs until August 2024. The French women's national team will be gearing up for the FIFA Women's World Cup come July and June 2023. And under a new coach, we cannot wait to see what they can bring to the table. And maybe, of course, those players will announced their retirement due to Corinne Diacre and the way she establishes herself with the players, will be able to rescind their decision and come back to the team. Now, the international window is closed, is done and dusted for the month of March. But we have some injury concerns for players who are returning to the Premier League sides. For those players in the Premier League, of course, they've got one concern, especially with Arsenal eager to have a fully fit squad for the final run-in, as they look to confirm their first league title in 19 years. There are a couple of players who are set to join the others in the treatment room, while some could return after going their fitness during the break. Arsenal will sweat over the fitness of Thomas Partey, Eden Nketiah, William Saliba and Kieran Tierney, while Manchester City are still doubting the chances of having Erling Haaland back in the weekend fixture after he withdrew from Norway's squad from the international break due to a groin injury. For Manchester United, those that are on the injured or absentee list are Danny van der Beek for a knee injury, Casemiro, who was suspended due to a red card, Christian Eriksen for an ankle injury, Alejandro Garnacho for an ankle foot injury. And those who are doubtful for Manchester United are Marcel Sabitzer, who's got a knee injury, Anthony Martial a hip injury, Hervé Renard a knock, Marcus Rashford a knock. For Newcastle United, they will be without some players who are injured or will be absent, like Miguel Almiron, who has got a thigh injury, Ryan Foster an undisclosed injury, Emil Kraft, who has got a knee injury, and those will be doubtful for Newcastle United are Anthony Godin, an ankle injury, Alan St. Maxim for an hamstring. We've got Nick Pope, who's got a knock, and Sven Botman, just a little bit of illness, among other players who are still expected back into their squad. And finally, in the world of sports, an update on Mason Greenwood for Manchester United. He has been told that he will not return to training at Manchester United until next season at the earliest. That's the club's intention right now. Now, after some internal investigations into his arrest on rape charges, unlikely to be completed before the summer, the 21-year-old striker has been suspended by United since January 2022, when allegations first emerged of attempted rape and assault, which led to him being arrested and charged. But all charges has been dropped by Greenwood, and he's understood to have held extensive talks with United officials in recent weeks, of course, in which the player has emphasized that he desires to return as soon as possible, and he stressed his commitment to remaining at Old Trafford, where he's under contract until 2025. The club are adamant that they will not be rushed into making a decision, however, and they continue to conduct due diligence into the circumstances surrounding his arrests and his off-field conduct. Mason Greenwood would have to go through a lot of therapy to go back into training with Manchester United, and that is what Manchester United are concerned about. So, sport update for you.